It all started with a single question, one that every journalist wanted to ask but few had the courage to. When Can Yaman was asked about his most talked about love scenes, no one expected the answer he would give. The room fell silent. Cameras flashed. And with a calm smile, he said the words that sent shockwaves through the entertainment world: "It couldn't have gone better, it was real, and that's what made it work." From that moment, the internet exploded. Thousands of fans started dissecting every scene, every look, every movement. What did he mean by real? Was he referring to the chemistry with his co-stars, especially Demet Özdemir, the woman fans have never stopped linking him with since her Kensi Kuss? Because for years, people have said that no acting class could create what they had. That spark, that magnetism, it wasn't scripted. It was something that crossed the screen and reached millions of hearts. And now, years later, after endless rumors, interviews, and silence, Can Yaman finally gave a glimpse into his truth. He sat there, in front of the microphones, more mature than ever. His beard neatly trimmed, his expression serious but relaxed. He looked like a man who had learned that fame comes with a price, but also with a strange kind of power. When he spoke about those famous love scenes, his tone carried both pride and nostalgia. "When you do a scene like that," he explained, "you're not just performing. You're connecting. If there's no truth, the audience feels it. That's why it worked." It wasn't just acting, it was emotion. The journalists leaned forward, sensing that this was no ordinary answer. And perhaps without realizing, Can Yaman was confirming what millions of fans had believed for years, that the intensity between him and Demet wasn't just written in the script. In the hours following the interview, social media went wild. The hashtag Can Yaman Confession trended across platforms in multiple languages. Fans from Italy, Turkey, Spain, and beyond started sharing clips from his most iconic romantic scenes. One comment stood out: "You can't fake that kind of emotion. What we saw between them was something real." Others, however, questioned whether his words were carefully chosen, a strategy to reignite public interest, or a genuine confession from a man tired of hiding his feelings. For those who have followed his journey, this moment felt like closure, or maybe the reopening of an old story that never truly ended. Because the world still remembers how deeply he and Demet were connected, both on and off the screen. Insiders from the set of her Kensi Kuss have spoken over the years about the unmistakable chemistry between the two stars. "They didn't need to rehearse much," one crew member once said. "They would look at each other, and the whole room would go quiet." Now, with Can Yaman's confession, those old words suddenly carry new weight. Was it just acting, or something much more? Demet Özdemir herself has often been diplomatic about their connection. She's praised his professionalism, his charisma, his intensity, but she has also admitted that filming those scenes wasn't easy. "When the emotions are too real," she once said, "it can be confusing. You start feeling things that maybe you shouldn't." And so, when Can said, "It couldn't have gone better," fans immediately remembered that quote. The puzzle pieces suddenly fit together, forming a picture that no one could ignore. There's a reason why Can Yaman's confession feels different from his usual interviews. For years, he has avoided personal questions, focusing on his career, his success in Italy, his projects like El Turco and Viola Come Il Mare, and his humanitarian work. But this time, his tone changed. It wasn't a polished PR answer. It was raw. Honest. Almost nostalgic. "Sometimes," he said softly, "a scene goes beyond what's written. You find yourself feeling something deeper. Something you can't control. But that's what makes it beautiful." That line alone became the quote of the day. Fans reposted it thousands of times, with captions like "He still feels it" and "This is why we fell in love with them." Within hours, fan edits flooded TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Clips of Can and Demet from their iconic scenes played over emotional songs. On X, users wrote, "He's basically admitting that what we saw was real love. No actor talks like that unless it comes from the heart." Even entertainment magazines picked it up. Italian and Turkish tabloids ran headlines such as "Can Yaman confesses," The feelings were real and Demet Özdemir at the center of his emotional revelation. The confession became not just a quote, it became a cultural moment. 5 years have passed since their series ended, yet the connection between these two stars continues to dominate headlines. Why? Because what they created wasn't just a story, it was an emotion that people could feel across continents. Their love scenes were tender yet electric, full of tension and vulnerability. And now that Can Yaman himself admitted they were real, fans felt validated. "We knew it," one fan wrote. "You can't fake that kind of love." It was written all over his eyes. For a generation of viewers, their romance symbolized something timeless, the blend of passion and respect, the kind of love that doesn't fade with distance or time. Of course, all eyes turned to Demet after Can's confession. Would she respond? A few days later, during her own interview, she was asked directly about his statement. She smiled softly and said, "Sometimes the best moments are the ones that weren't planned. We both gave our hearts to the story. Maybe that's why people still talk about it." Her answer only added fuel to the fire. The media called it the confirmation without confirmation. Once again, they were in the spotlight. Not because of a new project, but because of a truth too strong to be ignored. Today, both Can and Demet have built their own successful careers. Can became an international star, moving between Turkey and Italy, known for his discipline, his strength, and his mysterious charisma. Demet grew into a powerful actress admired for her emotional depth and authenticity. Yet, no matter what roles they take, people continue to see traces of that original magic. That's why this confession hit so deeply, because it reminded everyone of a time when television didn't just entertain, it made people feel. If something touches your heart, Can said in another part of the interview, it stays with you forever. Maybe he wasn't only talking about a scene. Maybe he was talking about a person. By the time the interview ended, Can Yaman's words had already become legend. He hadn't said names, he hadn't made grand declarations, yet somehow, he said everything. The truth is, love scenes are more than just cinematic moments, they're emotional mirrors. They reflect what's real inside the actors. And when the connection is genuine, the audience knows it. Fans from around the world thanked him online for his honesty. "This is why he's different," one wrote. "Because even when he talks about fiction, you can feel the reality behind it." Can Yaman's unexpected confession about his love scenes wasn't just about acting. It was about emotion, vulnerability, and truth. It was a reminder that sometimes, the most unforgettable performances are born from genuine feeling. And perhaps, in his quiet and careful words, Can finally